So let's talk about those three more important classical styles from after 1945. The first being chance music. This is the music mostly of John Cage. There were other composers who wrote chance music, but John Cage is the preeminent chance music composer. He also wrote a lot of new, exciting percussion music, and so I want to mention that as well. John Cage was an American composer that lived from 1912 to 1992. He was primarily inspired by dance and the rhythms of dance. There were many dance companies across the United States that really liked his percussion and percussive music and asked him to write pieces for them. So there's much of his music out in the world today that is used by dance companies across the world. However, he's actually most famous for his chance music. This is a type of music that he really believed in and thought wanted to exploit and have become a popular form of music. He believed that music should incorporate both sound and noise, and he also believed that music should in no way be controlled. So he developed something called chance music, an entirely uncontrolled type of music in which the performer actually most often chooses the way the piece is performed. This type of music was really a response to serialism. If you remember, serialism is an absolutely controlled form of music from after 1945. John Cage's response was chance music. Chance music is music in which the composer allows the performer to choose pitches, tone colors, dynamics, and rhythms by random methods. It's a random form of music. It does have notation, and it is written down, so it does have some sense of control in the fact that we know who wrote the music and how he tried to express himself in that music. But the music itself is entirely about chance or choice. Each performance of a piece of chance music is inherently different because the performers are always choosing different time limits for the music, different ways of performing the music, and different aspects of the music to emphasize. Again, this is the opposite of serialism. Your listening example for chance music is 4 minutes and 33 seconds by John Cage. This is not a piece that is actually discussed in detail in your book. It is mentioned a few times though. This is John Cage's most famous piece of chance music, mostly because it is so strange. And so many people think it's so shocking that he chose to use silence as a type of music. This piece of music is scored for solo piano, and the performer is instructed to walk onto the stage, bring his music with him, as well as some sort of stopwatch. It's in 3 movements, and the performer, for each movement, is to sit at the piano with the keyboard open or closed, depending on what they feel, and is supposed to time out the movement to a specific number of minutes and seconds. The performer does nothing else. He simply sits at the piano and listens to the sounds of silence, of the audience's hushed expectation, and the other noises that the audience makes. So this piece of music is actually made up not only of silence, but by the random sounds that the audience produces. I've provided 2 versions of this listening example for you because I want you to get an idea of what the original would look and sound like. But I also wanted you to see a more modern version of this piece of music. John Cage, while writing this 4-piano solo, did specify that it could be performed by any other group or solo players. So, very famous orchestra decided they were going to perform it live to an audience of thousands. That performance is recorded and was put up on YouTube, so I have the opportunity to share it with you. There is commentary by a very excited commentator. Take that as you will. He's very excited by the idea of some famous orchestra with such a large audience doing a type of music like this. But what I really want you concentrating on is, how is this music? How is chance and randomness incorporated into the music? Why do some of you not think this is music? Let's listen to another piece by John Cage as well. This one with actual written notation that's not quite so random, and see what you think of that one instead. As I said, he wrote a lot of percussion music, and in the 20th century, as you already know, there were many new percussion instruments that were developed and created. and that percussion became a new group of soloistic instruments. You have for the first time in this century concertos written for percussion instruments. And you already know that composers used old instruments in new ways to create percussive sounds. John Cage took this much, much further, as did many composers after 1945. He loved the idea of chance music, but he also loved the rhythmic pulsation of dance music. And he wanted to kind of combine both. He wanted to give the element a sense of randomness and chance while firmly controlling the percussive qualities of that music. So he created a piece of music called sonatas and interlude for a new type of instrument that he created based off of an old one. He used the piano as a percussion instrument. And this is something that a lot of 20th century composers did. And John Cage did many pieces of random and chance music using the prepared piano and other percussion devices. The example you're going to listen to is written about in the book, so feel free to read about it, but it's the second sonata from the Sonatas and Interludes for prepared piano. It's a 66-minute piece of music comprised of 20 short sonatas and interludes, only for solo piano. However, this piano has been prepared. What that means is that the piano has been turned into a percussion instrument. It's a piano whose sound has been altered by the addition of objects such as nuts, bolts, screws, tape, etc. that have been inserted on and between the piano strings inside the piano. Feel free to take a listen to all of it. It's actually quite an interesting piece of music. See if you can actually hear any elements that sound like piano music, or if this sounds more percussive to you. What are the percussive sounds like? Look into the insides of the piano. The video I've provided does have the inside of the piano shown, and see all the different objects he uses. It's really interesting what he was able to do to create a new sound and a new type of percussion using an old instrument. The randomness of the piece of music is not enough to make this also a piece of chance music. The randomness is taken away by the fact that he does demand that each performer put these specific objects in specific places inside the piano. However, he has written pieces of music that are both percussion and chance music that allow the performer to simply insert objects into the piano strings as they wish to create interesting sounds and a more random chance piece of music.